So how did I get to this? As Ole said, for me, this journey's been a long one. I grew up in a very interesting world. Um, some of you may have been to India. If you're from Indonesia or from that region of Asia, thousands of years ago, the continent, the subcontinent that we know as India, was primarily filled with the original people there called the Dravidians, very much like the Native Americans of the United States, or what we call America now. And the Dravidian people practiced or followed an ancient system of science called Siddha, Siddha. If you have read the book by Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha, Siddha meant the enlightened ones or enlightenment. So all of the Indian subcontinent, particularly in the tip of South India today known as Tamil Nadu, the people of that region, and by the way, went from the tip of India all the way to Kashmir and beyond, there were Dravidians who practiced the science of Siddha. Siddha involved 5 different aspects. It involved, martial arts. It involved the use of herbs and medicines. It involved the use of heavy metals and microdosing. It involved physical yoga, and then it involved meditation, right? So they had figured out the integration of these 5 aspects. Now, at some period in history, there was an invasion that took place from what was called the Aryan invasion. And if you look at it on a map of India, it sort of sliced India as a dagger on the top. So it split sort of the middle and southern part of India from the north. And that resulted in some significant changes in India. You had the development was known as a caste system, CASTE, not CAST. And the caste system basically was originally a system of guilds. Let's say Ole was a good musician, or someone else on the call here was a good carpenter, right? People were put into those roles because they were good at it. They earned it, or someone was a good teacher. But what ended up happening, and it's unclear how this occurred over some period of time, if Ole was a musician, then his son had to be a musician. If someone was a coconut picker, their son had to be a coconut picker. It was no longer based on meritocracy, which is based on birthright. And this obviously created a very, very unjust system over time. And this became what was known as a caste system. So when I grew up in India, I was exposed to this, It is an unfortunate system that has frankly not gone away. It's still in India. And so we were considered the lowest of the lowest caste. So the fact that my parents, quite extraordinary that they overcame that and made it out of India, it speaks a lot to what's possible. But it also speaks to some very interesting characteristics. My earliest experience with the caste system, which I shared earlier, was as a child playing, soccer or football, as you would call it, going to a friend of mine's home, and who I thought was my friend, or he was my friend. We were only young kids. And his mother spit on me, wouldn't allow me to come into the house. And she gave me water in a very different cup and was yelling at me. And I didn't really understand this. And that's when I went home that day and I asked my mom. She said, "Oh, we have a caste system in India. When I used to go to the well in the village to get water, I would be shooed away like a pig." That's what they call her. So a dirty pig. So the caste system basically denigrated human beings because of your birth. Right. Now, my mom, interestingly enough, grew up, this is my mother, grew up in a family where the father had left, which is unheard of in India. People don't split up in marriages. And she grew up in a world where, as a young child, she realized she would have to stand up on her own 2 feet. And my mom ended up, just through sheer will, through sheer determination, getting a mathematics degree, both an undergraduate and graduate degree at a time when most women weren't even being educated. There's a wonderful picture I have somewhere, I should dig it up, of a picture of this little dark, very dark Indian woman with around 50 men around her, all very light-skinned men. And she's the only woman graduating with a degree in mathematics. This is in the 1940s, when most women were supposed to be housewives, or for that matter, a few, and So it's quite extraordinary.